Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Agatha reviews. Technically the penultimate episode, but technically not the penultimate episode. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But the penultimate review episode. I'm the Clown Prince of Death, Travis Snell. I'm joined by...
I am the diviner, Kirkland Patzer. You were throwing me off there with the not actually penultimate episode. Made me think for a minute.
Yeah, it's our second last review of Agatha, because I think it's doing better than I expected, but I don't expect us to get an Agatha 2. So I imagine this will be the second last episode we ever talk about Agatha. And then, yeah, next week is, I didn't know this until, shout out to Mar. I always say we're the jesters. We're the guys that just, make up stuff, have a lot of fun. We're the crackpot theory guys. You want your full on information, comic book beats, everything, stuff like, oh, when I'm listening to Marvel Alliance, like, yeah, it has a 2-episode finale. I was like, I didn't even know that. I had no idea until I listened to Marvel Alliance, and this is a part-time job for me. So that's why we always say we're not critics or pundits or anything. We're just a couple of guys with a microphone, because I was like, perfect. But yeah, if people don't know, maybe I'm breaking news to you now, is next week, episode 8 and 9 are airing for Agatha, same day, same night. I imagine they'll just drop at the same time, and I think that's relatively smart, because I feel like if you're putting the episode out a week after Halloween, maybe the hype kind of goes away. I feel like some people, even Wednesday, I feel like I would say, maybe push it to the Tuesday, like the night before. It's a little too close, but I digress. Either way, next week Taylor will be back next week, so we should have all three of us for the finale of Agatha, and then we'll break that down. But first, we got to break down this episode, because they're not sleeping at the wheel. There's some reveals here. There's some things going on here. But Mr. Patzer, so you've been gone for, I think, the last two for sure. Is it 2 or 3 episodes?
I think 3.
Three
3 have been
episodes.
gone. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think about the show up until this point? And then after that, what do you think about this episode tonight, obviously in the non-spoilers fashion?
Yeah, I think the show is remains to be super solid. Last time I was on here, which would have been that episode 3 review, I was still really positive on it, and I think I still am. It was kind of nice to just binge like the last couple episodes all in a row. I don't know. It's always preferable to do that. Obviously, it's nice to do the weekly episode reviews. I wasn't able to watch them on the time, but I'm still really enjoying the show. I'm liking the reveals. It's funny, in the earlier episodes we were kind of avoiding some spoilery type things, which has now been revealed. And
Yes.
at the time, I thought I had been spoiled, and then I was kind of spoiled in a different direction, because I thought certain characters were something else. So that was kind of a nice surprise, and I think this show is doing a good job at keeping me interested from week to week, and like actually feeling like there is consequence. Like there's characters that are not safe. There's characters that are not going to be making it throughout the whole Witch's Road journey. So I think it's really good, and Catherine Hahn just remains to be fantastic. I'm really enjoying Aubrey Plaza's kind of usage so far. I guess just mostly as like the Green Witch and this Rio character, and what else she might be going forward for the rest of the show here. But I feel like I haven't really seen her perform, like Aubrey Plaza perform a character like this at all. I've mostly just experienced her on Parks and Rec, and I don't know, a couple
Gotta
other...
watch Legion, man. One day you gotta watch
Legion. Okay, there you
X-Men
go.
Marvel show. It was on FX. Very small, but it's
Low
worth it.
priority.
She's
I
in
got
the whole
Daredevil
show.
in my crosshairs
Shadow
right now.
King's in there. Everything. Xavier's son. Xavier's in the show. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, maybe one day. But
Hamish Linklater's in the show.
Wait, what?
Hamish
that
Linklater,
you're,
Batman, Midnight Mass.
Yes, that guy. Yeah, no.
Priest.
What else was
Father.
he in? Oh, Fantastic Four. We just did the retro, so he.
Of course, that his acclaimed role in Fantastic Four. Hamish
So
Linklater.
put him on the map. But yeah, no, I'm really digging the show. I feel like I am really enjoying it, but I will say it's not quite to like top tier level that like TV shows are capable of being. Like especially watching like Penguin every week. I feel like I go to this, and it's just like, okay, this is a nice like little daytime watch versus the more serious Penguin HBO level of like content. And I don't know if that's like, I don't want to say that in a sense to like put down this content, but it just feels a lot more, I don't know, I guess I guess comic booky is a good word for it because it is a comic book, Marvel TV show, but it feels more like kiddie. Even though there is like Halloween stuff going on with the Salem 7 and like there is some freaky elements to it, it just I don't know. It's not quite to the same caliber as a show like that, and
It sucks. Just say it. That's what you're trying to say.
I don't want to compare the two. It's just I think it's because I took a break and then like the only other show I had been watching was Penguin. So to just go from that to this, and because I had taken a couple weeks off, I don't know. It maybe I just thought the overall quality was slightly lesser, but yeah, I don't know. It's still good. Still enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting spot because I think it's in a weird thing where it's not because what was the other show we just finished, which was Rings of Power. That one's a tougher situation because I feel yeah, because I feel like that like show might have higher highs than this, but then that show also I think for me had some lower lows at the same time. So that one's a very difficult comparison or different comparison. And then to Penguin, it's that like Kyle was talking about. I was talking Kyle and I was like, yeah, that last episode, best episode TV ever watched. I'm like, all right, calm down. Like I like Penguin, but it's like Breaking Bad. I've seen stuff on 6 Feet Under, Sopranos, lots of other good stuff. But that's the thing where I do think Penguin is like obviously a much higher bar, but as the positive thing for this, just because like I don't think they allow them to be right. I feel like obviously with Penguin you're not gonna get Pattison. There's gonna be some boxes, but really because it's in its own universe, they get to do a lot more, right? Where this is still in the MCU, they can't just completely pop off. This is not rated R, and then also just we've talked about before the runtimes, right? These episodes like last week and this week, I think they're just I can't remember what this one was. This week was or last week I think it was around 40. They always still feel like a little too short, but at the same time, that's what they're working with, right? That's what they get mandated. Where HBO, it's like if you're doing a drama, an hour is like the minimum. But so yeah, it's nowhere near that. But I did think about today. I'm like, man, I think this is. I'm interested to see where this ranks in my overall MCU rankings when it's done because it's a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. Not in the sense that I don't think this is like, it might not even break the middle, but that's tough because there's almost 50 projects now in the MCU, right? So it's like, even if you're close to the middle, that's like high praise, like I'd have to look and see how many are ranked, but there's lots of stuff. So no, I think the show's still, I think it's a good watch. So yeah, I think it's not anywhere near Penguin, and even in the sense of like when you get to Daredevil or WandaVision or Loki, I don't think it ever hits those highs. But now we've been doing this since 2020. In the 4 years, we've gone a lot lower. Secret Invasion for one is like obviously the obvious one for me. Echo, God, what's another one we reviewed here in the Disney Plus realm
Of just Marvel.
Yeah, just Marvel. Not Star Wars. This is somehow if you were to, that'd be an interesting cast. We should do one day. Do like rank the Disney Plus shows, Marvel and Star Wars, like comparatively, and somehow I would rank Agatha a lot higher than a lot of them. I'd rank it higher than Mando 3. I'd rank it higher than Boba Fett, Acolyte, which is not something I thought because I think I said there was that time when Bob Iger came back, and it was that thing. I was like, oh man, all these shows that were in this era when they were forcing the content probably not going to be good. I still have to see Ironheart, and there's still like Wonder Man, but I had such low expectations, but no, it continues to be good. There's a reveal in this episode that was kind of like around thanks to Funko Pops and everything like that. So it didn't hit me with the chutzpah, but I was like, okay, cool. Like I like this addition to the MCU. I liked how they did the reveal, and they had a very fun narrative tool they used this episode that I thought worked really well. And I thought it almost one is not that I'm rushing to because I don't think it was that amazing, but I was like, oh, if I watch this show again, I'll be excited to see this show. Or I'll be excited to see this episode for a second time, and also now watching the beginning of the series with a different eye because they refer back to a lot of things they were setting up in previous episodes. So no, I thought it was a good episode. I think this is a good kind of setup to our 1-2 punch, and I hope they stick the landing. Because obviously MCU and just Disney Plus in general finales aren't always their strong suit. The good thing is I don't think it has the stakes of like a Loki, a WandaVision, even She-Hulk, to the sense where She-Hulk, I love the finale. I know it's a mixed thing, but like I love what they did in the finale. I feel like this is just like, Well, they got to get to the end of the Witch's Road. They accomplish something, and then it's on to another adventure, right? That's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting it has to be like with Loki. It's like, oh, you guys really got to nail this. With this, it's like, yeah, as long as it's like not bad, I'm pretty happy with the show overall. And I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna end in a satisfying way because I feel these back episodes have all been satisfying. So that's a good thing. So, is there anything else non-spoilers you want to talk about?
No. Let's get into it.
Okay, we're going to get into it. So, we're going to take our first ad break. If you don't want to listen to this, go over to Patreon and subscribe over there because we offer a lot of good tiers, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but we'll be right back. And we are back. So yes, like I was talking about Patreon, you can go do that over there. We get all episodes ad-free, so whether they're exclusive or just the episodes that we do weekly or not daily, but sometimes it feels like daily with how much content we're always pumping out there. But yeah, lots of good stuff. If you're into witches, we just did the retro for The Witch, which was a very good conversation.
Very different than the
yeah,
Agatha
very
witches.
different. Even though I'd love to see Tomlinson on the road and see what mischief would get up to, you know.
Have Agatha just fuck with her.
Swap Thompson and swap Agatha with her, and she's like dealing with the family situation. She would just be cracking all these jokes while the worst of the worst is happening. Like, how would she react to that crow scene? You know, it'd be interesting. But yeah, over there, lots of things, bevy of different content and tiers and things you can go. So you go over to Patreon. We very appreciate the support because we are independent content creators. But more importantly, if you want to skip that this month, that's fine because we are, gosh, the 9 days. We're very close to Extra Life. Not that far away. That's our 24-hour extra. That's our 24-hour extra live stream. That's our 24-hour charity stream where we stay for 24 hours straight doing a different collection of events and video games. We've started to put them all out, but the schedule is on the link down below, and there will be a rundown and a full schedule. We have the events. We don't have the schedule out, but the schedule will be out next week. But yeah, we do lots of fun stuff. We don't just sit down in front of a TV and play games. That is still fun. That's still sometimes what we do. We offer and say, hey, chat, can you come help us out, especially in the wee hours for our foreign listeners that are in the UK or Australia, come help us out. But yeah, anything we raise goes towards BC Children's Hospital, so we very much appreciate it. If you can't, just on that day, come join us and jump in the chat, like the video, share the video, because we've had many times for people that, even if you can't donate, I think almost every year we've had someone donate where we go, oh, you know that person, and we're like, no, we don't, but that's what we like, and it's like, hey, thank you, because it is going, doesn't matter if you can donate $5, $100, $50, whatever it is, all goes towards BC Children's Hospital, so we'd appreciate that, and there'll be incentives. There'll be me cutting my hair if we hit a certain goal. We're gonna have some certain outfits we might be wearing. I'll just say it here because it's Marvel Cast. There's gonna be a tier that if you hit it, we will all put on X-Men costumes for a couple hours. There's one tier if we hit it, we're gonna sing "Higher" by Creed. I don't know if Dylan knows that yet, but you know, that's why I was asking about the white tank tops. But yeah, and then what else do we got? Taylor's gonna shave his beard in funny different ways, so lots of good stuff over there. So we appreciate that. Check that out. But so I wanted to ask you because obviously it's a little backtrack 2 weeks in a row, but because you were the one member, I would assume that didn't get spoiled on even in your weeks of not watching. What did you think about the Billy Maximoff reveal?
It's funny because as I was saying, I wasn't spoiled on that, and then I thought I was spoiled on it because I read an article that said this isn't Wanda's son, this is Agatha's son, and then I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and then of course they're like hinting that direction. So it was a fun reveal because when you have that moment of Rio Aubrey Plaza's character, I guess now Death, say like, you know, the boy's not yours, Agatha, and it's like a really like emotional scene for Agatha there. I actually like felt like, oh my god, that's crazy. It's actually going to be Billy Maximoff. So I was totally swayed. I wasn't clever enough to sniff that one out, but I do like it. I feel like I'm really interested as to what Tommy's going to be up to, just what he's been through this whole time. Yeah.
That's fine. Just
I hope not. I hope it's a little more satisfying than that. But yeah, I'm curious as to, like, knowing that this is Billy, kind of what Billy's role is going to be after this show. Because I imagine, you know, out of anyone to live past the show, I'd imagine that was terrifying. He would be the one that just keeps going forward. They haven't really mentioned too much about like the current location of the Scarlet Witch. They've hinted a couple times of if she's dead or if she's not, or we don't really
Mhm.
know what else is going on. But yeah, I did like the reveal, and I like this dynamic of Agatha paired up with Wanda's son. I think that's a fun, yeah, just a fun pairing because I already like their on-screen chemistry, but now knowing who they are, just for the role of what Agatha was to Wanda and the Scarlet Witch, and like now that she's almost like a father or a father-like figure, a mother-like figure to teen Billy here. It's fun. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm curious as to how it's gonna, and I'm curious if they're gonna be talking more about just like that. We need like a little counter the amount of times I'll say
Yeah,
that
that was
word.
3 times. So yeah.
But yeah, just I don't know, just if they're gonna discuss more about that and how like the evil side of the Scarlet Witch. Like I'm curious if that kind of
Hmm.
comes into play.
Yeah, no, it was good to ask you here because there wasn't much. This is, I feel like, because we got the reveal 2 weeks ago, and then last week was a very Billy centric episode. Not much Billy. Like he's in many parts of the episode, but it's not like he's just kind of around, right? Like this episode's definitely a Paula episode. It's more about her and her journey, which I was, waiting for, but I wasn't sure when we were gonna get it. But yeah, I'm excited to see where that dynamic goes. We got 2 more weeks of it. I feel like we're gonna have to deal with some Rio stuff next week, and then the Witches Road. So I feel like this is again back to what we're talking non spoilers with the show being 20 30 minutes. Of course quality cannot dictate how good a thing can be because we talk about all the time, right? Like X-Men 97 had 27 28-minute episodes and those all banged. But I think with these shows sometimes there is too much going on. I think, like I said, Witches Road, probably some other stuff going on. At least the Salem 7's taken out. Very I'm of two minds of that because it's like I think that's good for the next two because I want as much time as possible with these characters and to close some things off. But at the same time, why were they even in here? Like just like like just take that out. Like that's again that these shows in the MCU and Star Wars sometimes suffer where it's like, okay, we gotta add. That's what I hate is we gotta add something. And I liked the idea. I'm fine with that. I wish like do a big fight, have a bigger impact. But it's like we gotta add some force that's kind of scary and kind of more comic booky. So it looks like there's gonna be something chasing after them. But really, it amounted to nothing. A couple they had to jump on a broom once, and then this time Patty LaPone took them all out. It's just like okay, like I like it as a character thing, but I just wish it was less Knights of Rennie where they were just faceless, whatever. And I'm not saying, oh, I need these to have character arcs, but it's just they set them up to be so big, and I also just thought like, oh, like swords piercing them is what kills them, eh? Like that's it. All right, so that's my thing. Of now, I'd go back and everything the Salem 7, other than like, oh, they look kind of cool and spooky. I'd take them out because like I would use those more minutes for the Coven or Agatha or Billy or whatever it is, right? So that's why I don't know what or how much in these next two episodes we're gonna get as far as with them acting or their dynamic because I can even see there's gonna be action scenes maybe. So I feel like the show's gonna end with them together, and we'll get a little more of their dynamic, and it's gonna be like, oh, we're on a journey together, perhaps. I don't know. I think we still gotta, I would imagine, have to get some resolution on what happened to Agatha's son too, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's, as usual, there's a lot to do left, but I think they will stick the landing a bit better because, like I said, that's the stakes aren't as high as some of the other stuff. But yeah, so it was a fun dynamic at the beginning where, oh, you're not going to talk to your old babysitter, and they do. It's because it's funny, like they do technically know each other, right? I don't know how long he was actually alive for because they would go from like baby to toddler to young boy. So I don't know like if they were literally alive for just a couple weeks. I don't know maybe I'll look when you're talking how long Westview was taken under, but either way they still know each other. And I did appreciate they already did this at the beginning of the show of like talking about Agatha or talking about Juan being dead, like yeah, she's dead, yeah, for sure, she's never coming back. They did that again here where like, oh, it's my, he didn't say my mom, we'll get him that, but he's like, oh, is Juan Maxwell really dead? She's like, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of like how it is. It's like, yeah, whenever Elizabeth Olsen wants to come back and whenever they want her back, until then she's
I feel like I
dead.
was
But
surprised when she said like, "Yes, she is dead." I'm like, "Oh wow, she's
yeah,
just gonna go with that." Then 2 seconds later, yeah, maybe we don't know.
yeah,
We'll
exactly.
see what happens. Um, but yeah, I share your sentiment on the Salem 7. I was extremely disappointed. I feel like I was telling myself, I'm like, "There's no way that they're actually dead, right? Like they gotta bounce back from these swords, but they look pretty damn pierced and out of it, like pretty decommissioned because of that." And I was I feel like they were just freaky looking, so I was maybe interested in getting a little bit more backstory as to what, like, I don't know, just how they got into that situation. But I don't think we're ever gonna get those answers now, and
No.
I don't think I want those answers now. With, as you just reminded me, there's only 2 episodes left, and we do have a lot to wrap up. So yeah,
On the point of the Westview, I've seen some
oh yeah,
people say 12 days and some people say 26. So my point is, even though they of course get older and everything like that, these kids were longer no or alive no longer than like a month, you know. So
yeah,
again, they've interacted, but not the most life experience. Now Billy's been alive for 3 years, I guess, but I guess I never know how they like age when they age up or their mind and everything. But so anywhere from 12 to 26, I see conflicting things
hmm.
on the interwebs. So
Interesting. I wonder if they'll answer those questions. Probably not.
no, I don't. I hope not.
Um,
They got other fish to fry, you know.
Yeah, we got plenty of fish to fry. I feel like there's something else I was gonna throw in there, but I can't remember what it was. But bouncing from that, yeah, a lot of Lilia stuff in this episode. I feel like I'm happy that all of like the bouncing to different periods of her life and like these little images and glimpses. We've had a couple of those moments, like in the show, whether she just splurts something out really random and Catherine Hahn is just kind of like, what would you just say? We were just seems really random. I like that it was just kind of all contained in this episode, as opposed to like every single episode having like she has one of those moments and then she gets like flashback to her talking to her like maestra lady. I don't know. Like I found it interesting. I liked how it was executed in this episode of just various things happening and then like they're just in random locations and then it gets revealed that she's just because what did she say that she was like what is she like afflicted with that she just is like a split I don't know being I can't remember what the term was that she had mentioned that she's basically just flying through different periods of her life and I find it interesting, but yeah, I'm glad it didn't overstay its welcome and this being like a big thing throughout the entire show of just her like going. I feel like just pacing wise, it would have been really jarring to have every episode her like having this conversation with the little maestra lady. But no, I liked it and I
What a payoff that would have been though. 7 episodes then finally, but that could have been someone who would have been like, this just ain't working for me right now.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of this, you know.
I found the young actress that they found to play like a young version of Patty LuPone. Man, they looked identical. Great casting. I thought that was really really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I liked all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a good payoff. We talked about it since episode 1 when she had those flashes when okay, she's seen the future and whatnot, or all over the place. This episode, it's not an exact 1-to-1 comparison, but it reminds me of the way Dr. Manhattan talks about how he lives and how he just drifts in and out of time somehow, where he'll go back to memory, but it's not like for us, we're like, oh, memory. It's like literally, and there'll be somewhere he'll see the future. Like, for example, if you haven't seen Watchmen, then I guess you got to catch up. But like in the movie, because I don't, the comic book's been a minute, but like in the movie, I like this where he says, "Oh, you're here to tell me you're sleeping with Dan," and she's like, "What? How do you know that?" And then they talk for about 10 minutes, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm sleeping with Dan," and he's like, "How could you?" And he's like, "Well, you already knew that." Like that was her in this episode where she would know things, but then she'd get like a mini reset. It's like she had, she's logging in an Elden Ring, but she has like 10 different save files, and every day she's like starting from a different point, and this was obviously the only reason it got this bad is because her death was coming, which we will talk about. But it seems like, I don't know if this was happening her whole life. She said that happened a lot when her life started, but I don't know if it was her whole life or it was just when Agatha came back in, and because we were going down the road of it being the end of her life. So I don't know, but either way, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was not that's like a clever, like it's not like to me like Memento editing, but it's like still something refreshing to see where okay, it's a fun layout, and kudos to the team for me of like making it make sense, because you could easily, I'd say there's like 4 points where 4 or 3 there's them in the tunnel, there's them with the just like the trial or whatever, and then there's her past life, and then there's all these splices that are throughout the episode. So, and those splices, like I'm saying 4 as sections, but the 4 splice is like multiple episodes. It's not just like another location where the tunnel and her at the the trial, that's easy, right? Okay, put the trial stuff here and that. But even then, it wouldn't go in exact order. It wasn't just like, oh, back and forth, back and forth. You'd go like a little bit in the scene and then back to trial, and then you jump all the way to the start of the scene you were just watching. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, I don't know. I think there's a couple, but like even when they showed her doing the cards and they showed Agatha like by the trees, I was like, I know that's probably in there, so I'm excited to watch it back. I don't think it was like as like bold as they made it out to be, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'll watch it and be like, oh fuck, that scene, they did really highlight that. But I thought it was like a good mechanism, and it made the episode entertaining. Like like obviously they wrote it this way, but I mean like if you were just to play this episode from start to finish of them getting the tunnel and going to the trial, I don't think it would be that exciting of an episode. It would just be another episode. So I think this device is what makes it stand out and something a little bit different. Something we haven't really. I'm trying to think in Disney Plus. I don't think we've done much with time in the Disney Plus realm of things. I know in the movie we've touched upon it, but I don't think we've
Loki,
done.
there's some time stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
in
you're
the
right.
last
And
season.
we have that where he goes back like he's there for like hundreds of years or
Mhm.
whatnot. So yeah, other than Loki, and this one's like a little bit different because she's not technically even going back through time. She's just experiencing different times at the same time, right? So, but no,
Endgame.
I said Disney Plus. I was
Okay,
safe
I
on that
know, I
one.
know.
I was because the movies. I'm like, oh god, there's been so much with time. Like they've changed the fucking definition of time travel 10 times in the universe. It's like I don't know what they're doing anymore. But no, I liked that device a lot. And yeah, they survived the sand. No shit, made it through the tunnels. Obviously, I feel bad. I can't remember what's the other name's witch.
The other
witch's
name's
name.
which?
Yeah, the other witch's name that was with her.
Jennifer.
Yeah, I feel bad for her. That must have been a long ride, just dealing with her going in and out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like I was surprised with how headstrong she was because throughout this show so far, I feel like she's kind of been not necessarily a wild card, just maybe like not fully like into the situation, like maybe skeptical of like what they're doing there, but
Mhm.
no. Yeah, especially getting paired up with Lilia that keeps getting blinked in and out of.
Yeah,
what the hell's going on.
that's not who you want to be with in this like life or death situation.
Yeah.
This is something that go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I was gonna go somewhere else, but you go.
I was gonna go
first.
somewhere else too.
You go first.
Okay. I was very happy, and I wish the show had a lot more of this, that the trial was not just another house. Sure, it's a room, but I like that.
That's literally where I was going. I was
Yeah,
gonna go with this
okay,
trial.
yeah.
So there you go.
They look up and they're like, well, that's different. I was like, fuck, finally, the third to last episode. Because, like, I don't think there, like, I don't know if there is any more trials. We've talked about this before where, well, I guess me and Taylor did, where Billy wasn't a part of the coven, so he technically wouldn't have one. Like Agatha had one, and I don't know where Rio fits in the situation because technically the Green Witch should have one, but it's like, does her being what
So
she
the
is?
first one wasn't the Green Witches, though, right? Like
No, that was
Kitty.
Jennifer's.
Oh, that was Jennifer's.
That was
right.
Jennifer's, and then the music one was obviously Alice's,
Yeah.
and then the Ouija board was Agatha's, and this was Patty LaPone's. And then I don't think, like I said, I don't think Billy would have one because he wasn't a part of the coven technically.
Mhm.
They have deemed him a witch now, so maybe they'll split hairs and be like, oh,
Yeah.
no, he is. But technically, you would think it's the Green Witch, whether it's Rio or Mrs. Hart. So I guess that would fit even next week as far as doing Rio's or the Green Witches because, like, it's a way where they don't trust her, even though Agatha knew her identity. But either way, we'll get into a second. I just wish that a few more episodes. Maybe again, they did say, hey, this is the cheapest MCU show, so good for them. I get it. They got to keep budgets down. I just wish there wasn't so many houses before. So seeing a castle and seeing just walls and brick and cement and the swords and looking like medieval, I was like, this is really all I needed. Even if you just even if they had a house on the outside and they walked in and looked completely different, not like Real Housewives and like an 80s band garage. No, like give some other like kind of different eras or locations. So I appreciate this, and I liked the trial. The trial, like, it's not like fun to watch because like you can't, like, we're not seancers, right? It's not like we can figure it out like, oh, your mission is this and you represent this. It's like I can't get that, but I thought it was done well, and I liked with the swords falling and everything. So I was a fan of this trial, and I thought it was definitely my favorite one. There's lots going on, but just 'cause the other trials for me, there wasn't there's not been much for me to gleam on to the trials that we've gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree. This one was my favorite. I think pairing it with the trippy like time stuff too definitely helps. the location helps. I like their attire. She's like the
Hmm.
Wicked Witch of the West, and I like how she's like, oh, she got this look from me, as if Agatha was the original witch. So that was kind of fun. And yeah, I feel like I'm just such a sucker for like this type of trap, like the Indiana Jones of just like the ceiling coming down with the spikes, or
You'd
kind of
love
Star
Saw.
Warsy with the.
Saw has a lot of these type of traps. They just don't get out, like Indiana Jones, you know.
I feel like I warmed up more to the idea of jumping into the saws because Maddie told, or he didn't tell me specifically, but he said on After Nine that he's mostly in it for the story and not the
Yes.
torture porn aspect to it, which is
Well, we've been saying that for years. I don't know why
yeah.
Maddie's saying it once gets you, where we've said
Because I don't know,
it's
his
about the
voice,
lore.
his word just
The
carries
French
more weight for me.
accent gets you.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
That's probably what it is. But yeah, I really liked the trial. I liked how Teen had his go at it. And then Agatha was like, "Hey, my turn." She's just fucking like spamming every card. Swords are just falling, like just hectic. So yeah, I thought that was fun. And yeah,
I like to when like because they go back and forth, right? Like Patty Lapone, like Paula gets in there for the first time, and she's like mad at Team, but they're all like, "We forgave her, like we forgave him, like we went past this," and then we see the scene later. But I like when she throws him against the wall and teenager, and Jennifer's like, "Oh, full name," you know. I liked that joke there, but yeah, they get out of that situation. I'm kind of jumping all over. They get out of that situation. We talked about the Salem's Lot, so R.I.P. to the Krusty Seven there. But so Paula decided to sacrifice herself because she kind of knows death is coming. But yeah, she's goner now. She flips the room upside down. Like I said, swords take them out. She saves all the other characters. So we got Jennifer, Agatha, and Billy left. Obviously, who knows what's going on with Rio. But yeah, I'm not surprised because I think we talked about a few of these characters dying. I am still wondering if there's like a way for them to come back, even especially I said before Mrs. Hart would come back, but I'm not sure now because so many of them have died. I wouldn't have been like I would have felt like okay, maybe a couple would die and then maybe one more at the finale, but because so many of them have died, I don't think they're coming back. But I thought it was a good enough send off for her, and I thought a strong episode. And I liked like the very ending of the episode where the little because she said at one point when she was little, she saw her whole life. Kind of flash before her eyes and paraphrasing, right? So for her to die, and then the show ends with her back as a little girl.
yeah,
Like I know it's not this, but you can almost say you're not even watching the Agatha show. You just watched her vision of what her life's gonna be like, and now for her, it's like starting over. So it's this
yeah.
thing of like she's kind of always starting over because she's living all these times. So I thought that was like a very nice understated. I guess it wasn't the ending, but for me, it's like that was an ending of that character in that story that I appreciated. I thought it had some
Yeah.
heart to it. So
Yeah, it was a little touching way to end it, and I don't know. It seemed less dour and like sad. I think having that quick little shot, and the little girl just kind of smiles. So yeah, I liked it.
yeah, so then the reason she did die is because she has, some visions and she's talking about, okay, well, the reason this might be happening is because death, and that's where it's going. It's the end of the road, right? And they talk about the road and everything leading to death, and that's what we all have in common, yet, and that gives the opportunity for they're in a cave, they look up, and they see Rio, who is AKA Death, and she says, "Oh, all roads lead to me," because AKA Death. So obviously, Death just in pop culture is a character, right? Whether it's just in spooky stuff, whether it's the fucking wolf from Puss in Boots, but obviously in Marvel lore, she does have a big role. She was the original, which I had seen people make this joke before, like, "Oh man, if I was Thanos, I would have sacrificed everything for her." In the original, the Endgame story, it to me is better. Just like speaking about Watchmen, like how what certain things Zach does in there, I like it better than the story. The original story of Infinity War was he got those gauntlets and the stones and everything, and this whole mission and like half in the universe was not because of resources, not to better things. He just had the hots for death and was trying to impress her. Now, again, if it's Aubrey Plaza, you might get it, but that's where, you know what, if that would have been the plot of Infinity War and Endgame, I don't know if it would have been the, second and seventh biggest movie or whatever they are. I think they were smart to make it something a bit more tangible where it's just like, oh yeah, Thanos has the hots for death, very comic booky, but they have introduced this character. I think obviously good casting, and like I said, there was a Funko Pop. I think like week 2 or 3 of the show that had like Aubrey Plaza's character. It said death, so I was like, oh, okay,
Mm.
which Funkos have been wrong before, but still, like, okay, this is probably where we're going now. And yeah, I'm very curious what they're gonna do with all these characters that are introduced. So we talk about with Billy and Agatha at the end, and also just with this character. Like, I do not want to see Aubrey Plaza in 2 weeks somehow get she's death. Like, she should kind of be like a watcher to me, like around all the time. You could defeat or escape, but it's like to be, And again, I don't know if she has like agency, right? Was she maybe literally here just to collect Patty LaPone because she knows Patty LaPone's about to die, right? Like some tales do that where death is around you, it's just waiting. But I don't think so. And at the same time, like what would they want with Billy or Agatha, which they did clarify that Agatha knew she was death. She said she likes the bad boys. So that was not a big reveal for her, which I think I appreciate. I don't know if I needed another scene where it's like, oh my God, like you're death. How could you date me or do this? It's like, I'm interested to see what does death mean in the MCU 616 universe, because I'll pull up Death because I feel like Death, at least in that story, in the Infinity War story, she is like the classic like just she's just a spiritual being that's just like, okay, you represent death, or like even like in like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, right? Like that's what death
Mm-hmm.
is. It's just like this figure, or is it like she is called Death, but they are like superhero magical spell like powers, right? Where it's like she still has
Yeah.
her own agency. Like, like was she there at Endgame when everyone's dying? She's like taking their souls, or is it just like Thor? How he is like Thor is like this version of Thor. He's not like really the Norse mythology Thor, but
Yeah, no, I'm very interested in what happens going forward with this character. I feel like I'd be pretty sour if they either just kill her off or like is a really nothing character, because this should be a very important thing. Obviously, we all meet death at some point, so I
not
really
today.
want to see some like, I don't know, just some
This is what you
significance
want
to
to
the
see. You
role.
want to see Albert Plaza rocking this costume right
I have
here and
that
stuff,
card.
right?
That's I have that card in
There you
Marvel
go.
Snap. I've used death many
But that's what
times.
I mean. Like, look, like many times
Yeah.
she like that's just like okay, the classic like old story. That's what I mean. Like, is she a character going around collecting them? Gonna try and find her Endgame or Infinity War, but that's where it's just like, what route they gonna go? And like, obviously they got an
Yeah.
actress, so you got to go a different route. But I, I don't know. It's kind of like not to go back to Rings of Power. It's not the same, but I want it to almost be in like a Tom Bombadil sort of sense where like it's reversed because he doesn't have like a purpose per se, but he's just kind of around. Like I kind of would like her just to be around, but I also don't expect her to pop up in like when we watch Spider-Man 4 and let's say I don't know Ned dies and Aubrey Plaza's there like, oh, I take your soul. Like there's only things you can certain things you can do with it, right? So
She's signed up for every movie coming up.
biggest
The character
contract
dies.
of
Yeah.
all time, you know. So and that's why it's probably taking this long to introduce her because it's a hard character to play with,
I
right?
hope
Like
I
what do you
hope
do?
they've planned it out. I hope it's not just, oh
Yeah,
yeah, Aubrey Plaza. Okay, now she's gonna be
death. That's
deaf because
cool.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. um.
Or they kill
So
her
yeah,
off in the finale, right? Agatha defeats her and then she's gone, right?
and like I actually could see that happening, and then she just goes to like
Yep.
hell or something. She's like, no, I'll
Comes
get
back in a few
you,
projects.
like a
Yeah.
Scooby Doo villain.
Bumps into Mephisto and then,
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh
oh,
my god.
I like death.
Something to do with Spider Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like the more we talk about it, the more worried I get, actually. But I don't know.
Mhm.
Hopefully they handle it.
I would love her to be somehow like I don't know how they'll do it, and I think they've done this before in comics. I would love it to it's a big stretch, but like I think the 2 points if she survives. Okay, I guess there's 3 points, right? Whatever they do with Agatha and Wanda, I've always said if they do like a Wanda movie or show, which I think the rumor is they're going to do a movie at some point. I think like that's where you could use characters again, like an Agatha, obviously, or kids, death. Like that's where you could do it. Doctor Strange is like another good touch point of like I would like to see that character incorporated there, or wherever Mephisto is. Like I feel like that's another touch point. Then third, because not that I want them to do the Infinity War storyline, but if you could somehow have her tied with Doom, there could be a way. But
Mm.
again, I just don't know. That's like it that we have so much to learn on that situation of right, like Robert Downey, maybe a different universe. Like that could be something harder. So I would like it that if we eventually, even though we're going to talk about a newscast a couple weeks from now, Blade delayed indefinitely, so that's great. But whenever we get there, or to Midnight Suns, I would be completely fine if they like, okay, she's going to be around a lot, but we are going to keep it more to the supernatural stuff. That's kind of like my barometer of like, you get a pass from me. But if it is the like she's get turns in dust and she's gone, I would be quite disappointed because then it's just like just start off the show as her as Death, right? They showed they did the Saw flashback where they literally showed her crawl from the ground like Death when they did the Ouija board and said Death and she laughed. Like I get it, but then I would rather have that reveal come mid season if you're going to take her out. So that's my hope is they're not going to take her out. It's just again what we've talked about before. It's like well Moon Knight was introduced about 3 years ago now. Where's he? What's Werewolf by Night doing? What's
Yeah.
what's She-Hulk doing? Like same thing. Is this just another character where it's like, hey, we need something really cool for the show. Death's a character that's supernatural. Aubrey Plaza would be a great fit. Okay, cool. Let's do it. And then never heard of again. And that's what I could just well happen. So.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not the case.
Yeah, hopefully it's not the case. Let's see. So we had that happen. Pelapone's death. Yeah, Agatha and Billy not really in this episode that much. They had their one of those scenes there, but which is fine. I imagine they're going to get a lot of play in the next two. Do you think Jennifer is going to make it out of this? Or are they all dying?
I think Jennifer's 50-50, honestly. I could see her living and then just going back to kind of doing her thing so that like she's a character that going past the show, like even if she doesn't die, it's completely fine if you never see her again. So
yeah, I could see I bet we'll never see her ever again, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 on if she lives or dies though. And then who else would we have? I guess just Death. Yeah, we already talked about her, and yeah, that's the last of the witches, eh? Agatha, I guess, but I think she's living.
I think she's living too, and then Billy, which I'd imagine you wouldn't introduce Billy just to fucking kill him
You're out
off.
Norman.
Yeah. Which I wonder, this is how, which I guess it's not a big reveal to her, I guess. The only reason I would have thought you could reveal that she's deaf to Agatha and then there be a conversation is you would imagine, like, a couple of weeks ago when she said, oh, that's not your son, you would imagine there could be some ties to that, right? Like, I'm not sure. I guess it's just Darkhold, but if it's a son dying and she's deaf, you could imagine that maybe there's some knowledge there. But again, I don't know what the reason is for them to talk about it. I was surprised Billy didn't bring it up. Because at the beginning when Agatha's like, oh, you asked me anything, and he asked her about Rio, she's like, oh, I can't talk about that. I thought he would have asked about the son, Nicholas Scratch, first, but he didn't. So yeah, I'm curious what we're going to get next week as far as, which is a good thing. We don't have to wait. We're going to get the ending of episode 8, and then episode 9 will be right around the corner. So, yeah. Is there anything else? I have one more non-spoilers thing to bring up. It's a quick fact, but anything else non-spoilers to bring up?
No, I think that's it.
Or not non-spoilers, just overall, not non-spoilers.
Yeah, let's
go back
jump
to, let's
into
go
the
back
episode.
to yeah, we're going to take our first ad break. We'll be right back. Just like Paula character, just like we keep, the people tune in, they're like 8-hour review, and it's just, keep jumping to multiple places. That'd be great. So I had to ask you about this, but because it did tie in this week, did you notice what the end credit song was for this episode?
No.
It was Time in a Bottle. It was the song that Quicksilver runs to in Days of Future Past. And like, I can break time in a bottle. So interesting. Again, I've given up on that ever being a thing, but
yeah, I didn't even
that's what
talk
I was
to you
gonna
about the
ask you.
bonerism.
I was gonna say,
stuff.
what did you think about Ralph Boner making his glorious return? Bonator 69 last week.
I definitely laughed out loud, and I felt bummed that I missed the review because I'm like, I just wanted to see Travis's reaction. I'll have to go back and watch the review.
I've come to grips with it. I knew it was coming when they're like, we gotta talk to somebody, so it's fine. They like their joke, so yeah.
I wasn't expecting it at all, so that was a nice funny one for me, and I like explained the situation to Shay, and it's just I feel like I was reliving like the Wanda Vision thing of it, like just because it's been so long, you just kind of forget how it felt, to rip that Band-Aid and to see Evan Peters, but to not have him as Quicksilver. It was weird gut punch feeling that we had way back in the WandaVision days.
Yeah, it was just like a little reminder. It's just kind of like he's the guy that like your girlfriend cheated on you with, and then you're like, hey, I think I'm over that, whatever. Then years later, you're bumping into a bar, you're like, oh yeah, fuck this guy. But it's like, but for me, it was like, yeah, but like now you're off that relationship, right? So it's not a big deal. So you're not like hung up about it. But that was
Yeah.
me last week, where it's like, okay, whatever. But it's still like, yeah, but still fuck that guy. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't want to be his friend or anything like that. But who knows? Maybe he'll come back. I don't know. But yeah, well, next week will be the final Agatha review, and then I guess the last MCU thing we're talking about, because today it was confirmed that Spider-Man, I guess it's not MCU, but the Spider-Man freshman year, that's not coming out this year. I don't know if there's any like Christmas or holiday specials. We don't know much about What If, so this could be it. Venom and Agatha ending us off these next 8 days. I can tell you that I imagine Agatha finale, whatever they do, gonna be more satisfying. But who knows? I forgot to pimp that out. Check out. We will be reviewing Venom in the next 24 hours, and
Yeah,
that's gonna
very
be
soon.
us and Taylor and Dylan, and that's gonna be a fun review. No matter what happens in that movie, it'll be a fun time, and it will not be boring.
Adios.